You can't see it, but something is moving, not in the physical, not in the messages you wish he'd send, but in the silence, in the shadow, in the sacred tension between you. The divine masculine is preparing, but not in the way you imagined. He's not making grand declarations. He's not chasing you down in desperation. He's not even admitting out loud what's happening inside him. But his soul is trembling because for the first time, he's feeling what you felt all along. The pull, the cracking, the weight of being face to face with destiny. And no, it doesn't look pretty. It looks like withdrawal. It looks like self-sabotage. It looks like confusion, conflict, collapse. But what if the chaos isn't his failure? What if it's his initiation? What if his silence isn't rejection, but reordering? He's preparing through every delay, every breakdown, every night he can't sleep and doesn't know why. And the closer he gets to truth, the more everything false inside him must fall away. You've been feeling something shift, haven't you? That strange heaviness in your chest. That wave of emotion that wasn't yours. That knowing that someone is approaching, even if he's still out of sight. That's not fantasy. That's the field aligning, and his soul is already answering the call. You've asked yourself this, haven't you? If union is meant to happen, then why does he feel so far? If he's awakening, why does it look like he's running? Why do I feel him shifting energetically while he still says nothing at all? Because preparation, beloved, doesn't always look like readiness. Sometimes it looks like falling apart. The divine masculine is preparing, but not in the linear, logical, goal-driven way the world taught us to expect. He's not building a perfect version of himself so he can finally come find you. He's not waiting for the right words or the right moment to prove he's ready. He's collapsing, and that collapse is the preparation. Because before he can rise into the man he is destined to become, he must be stripped of every false layer that kept him in survival mode. The masks, the coping strategies, the emotional armor, the patterns of avoidance, the fear of not being enough, the belief that love is pain, that presence is weakness, that silence is safety. Have you ever had to let go of a version of yourself that you built just to protect your heart? He's in that space now, and it terrifies him. Not because of you, but because of what love demands. Because when your presence enters his life, it vibrates truth. It reflects light where he's only known shadows. It asks for nothing, and yet sees everything. And that kind of love, the one that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't perform, shakes the very foundation of a man who has never felt safe in his own heart. That's why he distances. That's why he falls silent. Not because he doesn't feel you, but because he feels you too much. And when he retreats, he meets the mirror that you once held up for him, but that now lives inside him. A voice that says, she's not waiting anymore, and if you don't meet her in truth, you'll lose more than just her. You'll lose yourself. This voice doesn't speak in words. It rises in dreams. It shakes him in the middle of the night. It whispers through synchronicities. It crashes through moments of emotional overwhelm when he least expects it. Have you felt it too? The sudden shift in energy, the emotional waves that don't belong to you, but pass through you anyway. That's him. That's his field touching yours. Because your souls are already in dialogue, even when your voices are silent. He's being initiated through confusion, through fatigue, through the collapse of the old self that can't follow him into union. And here's the part no one tells you. He doesn't even know this is preparation. To his ego, it feels like failure. To his logic, it feels like loss. To his body, it feels like chaos. But to his soul, it feels like truth. Because only truth can survive what's coming. The love that's calling him home isn't gentle anymore. It's fierce. It's exact. It's coded in the frequency of who you've become. Because you're no longer the woman who begged for his love. You're the woman who became the love. Who claimed her space, who chose herself without turning cold. Who stopped reaching and started radiating. And that frequency, it's what's breaking him open. He doesn't need you to explain it. He doesn't need a conversation. Your energy has already spoken. And now, every day, he spends avoiding the call. His body, his spirit, his reality, they all rebel. Why does he feel anxious for no reason? Why do old memories keep surfacing? Why is he restless in relationships that once felt enough? Why is he triggered by silence, by your absence, by his own inability to forget? Because this is what preparation looks like. It's not romantic. It's not linear. It's not together. It's sacred unraveling, and it's happening now. So if you've been sensing something, a buildup, a pressure, a magnetic tension in the invisible space between you, trust it. He's not lost. He's being reconfigured. And the more you stand in your truth, the more you anchor the field he's meant to rise into. You are not waiting, you are holding the blueprint. You are the silent force behind his becoming, and he knows it, even if he can't say it yet. Because union begins long before you see it. It begins in frequency, in collapse, in the divine preparation only the soul can recognize. And his soul is listening now. You prayed for him to awaken. You whispered to the stars for him to feel. You held space in silence, waiting for a moment when his heart would finally crack open. And now that moment is here, but it's not what you imagined. Because awakening for the divine masculine doesn't begin with clarity. It begins with chaos. It begins with confusion that cuts through every structure he built to feel safe. It begins with questions he doesn't have answers for, with emotions he was never taught to name, with a pressure that builds inside him until something, everything, begins to collapse. You wanted him to open. But beloved, did you know what that would actually require? It's not just him choosing you. It's him losing everything he thought made him who he was, so he can find who he really is. This is the breakdown, and it's sacred, because no true union can begin while illusions still hold him hostage. No divine love can anchor in a man who is still performing a version of himself. The truth must come through, and the truth wrecks what's false. Have you felt the ripples of it? Have you felt your chest tighten without knowing why? Have you had dreams of him being lost, chased, or hiding? Have you caught your breath in the middle of the day for no reason, like your soul just passed through his? That's the field. That's the signal of his breakdown echoing through the soul cord between you. And it's not your job to fix it. It's not your task to interfere, explain, or try to hold him together. Because this breakdown, this sacred unraveling, is what his soul chose. It's the reckoning he must walk through alone. Why? Because it's not just about you. It's about every wound he buried, every promise he broke to himself, every time he stayed in a life that drained him, just to avoid the fear of starting over. And now, the dam is cracking. He doesn't understand why the job feels empty, why the relationship he clings to no longer satisfies, why the distractions aren't working anymore, why silence makes him panic, and your absence haunts him more than your presence ever did. This is the work no one sees, the sacred storm, and here's what most don't realize. He can't prepare for union from a place of performance. He can't pretend to be ready. He must become ready through the fire, He must face the version of himself that lied, that numbed, that ran. He must feel the cost of denying his heart. He must meet the mirror of his own soul and realize that no woman, no distraction, no mask can replace what he truly longs for: freedom, wholeness, truth, you. But before he can claim that truth, he has to let go of everything built on fear. Do you remember when you went through that? When you lost the version of yourself who clung to people just to feel loved? When you stopped begging for breadcrumbs and started becoming the feast? When you cried so hard you swore your heart would never open again, and yet it did? He's walking that now. But here's the difference. You were allowed to express it. He was taught to suppress it. You had spiritual language, tools, sisters, space. He had silence, shame, and a cultural script that says, man up and move on. But he can't. Not this time. Not when the soul is involved. Because his soul doesn't want the old life back. It wants you. But not just you as a person. It wants the frequency you hold. The love that cracked him open. The mirror that saw through him and didn't run. And that's why he's falling apart. Not because he's weak, but because he's waking up. This is the price of truth. This is the sacred cost of consciousness. And no, it's not romantic. It's not easy. It's not Instagram worthy. It's raw. It's ugly. It's nights on the bathroom floor. It's driving around for hours trying to escape the thoughts. It's facing every choice he made that went against his heart and realizing he can't do it anymore. So if he seems silent, cold, distant, if he's ghosted or pulled away or chosen someone else, do not be deceived. Because silence doesn't mean stillness. Distance doesn't mean detachment. In fact, the more he avoids you in the physical, the louder your presence becomes in the spiritual. You are his anchor, not through words, not through effort, but through embodiment, through holding your truth, through trusting the process, through knowing that this breakdown is not the end. It's the only way he'll ever find his beginning. So the next time you feel that wave of sorrow, that random burst of anger or sadness that comes from nowhere, ask yourself, is this mine or his? Am I being asked to carry this or to release it back to source with love? Am I willing to hold space for his becoming without collapsing my own foundation? Because his breakdown is his, and yours already birthed the woman who no longer begs for union, but becomes the magnet for it. So stay in your center. He is not gone. He is not broken. He is awakening through fire. and the ashes he rises from will be the proof that your soul already knew union doesn't begin in perfection. It begins in the sacred breakdown. And the next time your heart whispers his name, remember, he's listening, not with his ears, but with the soul you called back to life. You've seen it, felt it, that wall he puts up right when things start to feel real. That shift in his energy, the moment your presence becomes too truthful, too raw, too close. You reach out, and he disappears. You soften, and he hardens. You open, and he retreats. And somewhere deep in your chest, the question rises again. Why does he keep resisting the very thing he asked for? But here's what your soul already knows. His resistance is not rejection. It's recognition. Recognition of the fact that your presence awakens something in him he spent a lifetime suppressing. Recognition of the truth that with you there's no room for masks. Recognition that his excuses, his detours, his distractions can't hold in the frequency you bring. And that terrifies him. Because you don't just represent love, you represent truth. And truth is dangerous to a man still hiding from himself. He doesn't resist you. He resists what loving you will require him to face. Because loving you isn't passive. It's not comfortable. It's not a script he can follow or a performance he can perfect. Loving you is remembrance of who he was before the world told him to shut down, of what he truly desires when there's no one to impress, of the wild, honest, divine part of him that knows you are his mirror. But mirrors aren't always comforting. Sometimes they confront. Sometimes they reveal the pain he's buried. Sometimes they show the gap between who he is and who he knows he must become. So when he pulls away, don't assume it's because you did something wrong. Don't spiral into self-blame. Don't dim your light just to become more digestible. Instead, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what is my energy reflecting back to him right now? Am I holding a mirror of truth or reaching from my wound? Am I seeing his resistance as a personal attack or a soul-level purge? Because here's the sacred reality most won't speak. His soul does want you, but his ego doesn't know how to survive you. Not yet. His ego was built on approval, control, survival, on chasing the kind of love that doesn't require real presence, on choosing relationships where he could stay in hiding. But with you, that version of love won't work because your energy doesn't need him to prove. It needs him to remember. and remembrance feels like a threat to the self he's carefully curated. So, yes, he'll resist. He'll avoid eye contact with the truth. He'll delay the message. He'll try to convince himself he's fine without you. But beneath all of that is a trembling. Because what if the connection is real? What if this is the only thing that ever made him feel fully alive? And he's not ready to face it. And what if deep down, he knows he will lose you if he keeps hiding? There is a storm within him now. One part wants to run. The other part knows running won't work anymore. You are not just a woman he loved. You are the event his soul has been waiting for. And events like this, divine encounters, come with consequences. They wake up the parts of him that have been asleep. They stir up grief, guilt, old stories. They push him to question everything. Who am I really? What do I want? What if I was wrong about love? And in that space of deep inner friction, he resists. But don't confuse his resistance with rejection, because rejection is a final decision. Resistance is a temporary defense mechanism. And the truth is, the more he resists, the more you're pulling something loose in him. Not through force, not through begging, but through your frequency, because your soul isn't chasing anymore. It's calling. And that call bypasses the mind. It speaks directly to the part of him that remembers who you are, even if he doesn't respond yet, even if he ghosts, even if he seems happy elsewhere, even if he posts pictures that make your heart sink. Remember, appearances lie, but energy doesn't. And right now, his energy is stirring, because you're not reaching, you're rising, and that rising creates friction inside him. It forces a choice. Do I numb this out again? Do I pretend I never felt her? Do I stay in a life that no longer reflects me, just to avoid the unknown she brings? He's asking those questions now, not with words, but with aches, with restless nights, with emotional breakdowns he can't explain. So hold your frequency. Let him resist if he must. Let the fire do its work, because love, real love, doesn't need to chase, it knows its power. And if he's meant to rise, he will. Not because you waited, not because you begged, but because you dared to reflect a truth that couldn't be unseen. And no matter how far he runs, he will never forget the one who showed him his own soul, not even in resistance, especially not then. Because sometimes the path to union begins not in a yes, but in a sacred no. A no to old lives, a no to false comfort, a no to the man he thought he had to be. So if he's saying no right now, don't grieve it, honor it, because that resistance might be the first step toward a real yes, one not spoken from fear, but from truth. What the feminine must hold during his shift. You've felt the pull, you've felt the ache, you've felt him move closer, not in body, but in energy. And then, without warning, he pulled away again. It's confusing, isn't it? One moment you feel his presence so deeply, it moves through your chest like lightning, and the next, a void, a silence, a gap so wide it almost breaks you. And still, you hold. But what does it really mean to hold, divine feminine? What does it mean to stay grounded, loving, and clear, while everything in your connection feels uncertain? Because if he's in a breakdown, if he's resisting the very truth he once craved, then what role remains for you? You are not here to chase. You are not here to explain. You are not here to rescue him from his process. You are here to hold frequency, not from attachment, but from alignment, not from longing, but from remembrance. Because while he unravels, you are being asked to embody what he has forgotten. Safety, truth, stillness, love. Have you noticed how the more you anchor into your wholeness, the more he trembles inside? That's not by accident. Your field carries the blueprint of the union. And when he resists, collapses, or hides, it's not a rejection of you. It's the echo of his soul brushing against the truth he's not yet ready to live. And this is where your greatest work begins. Because holding the frequency doesn't mean waiting for him. It means holding you. It means staying connected to your body when the ache returns. It means breathing through the emotional surges that seem to come from nowhere. It means whispering to your own soul, I trust you, even when your mind begs for answers. What if you could meet his absence with presence? What if you could meet his avoidance with embodiment? What if you stopped asking, why won't he come? And started asking, what part of me is still learning to stay with me? Because here's the divine truth. The more you hold yourself, the more you hold him. He feels it. He may not understand it. He may not be able to name it. But your grounded presence in the energetic field becomes his lighthouse, even in his darkest moments. So when you cry, cry from your truth, not your lack. When you speak to him in the unseen, do it with clarity, not desperation. When you release the emotion, let it rise through your body like a sacred offering, not a sacrifice. You are not meant to fix the masculine. You are meant to stand in the truth that calls him forward. But be honest, beloved. Have you been holding him or holding your fear of losing him. Because there's a difference. One anchors the connection. The other drains your life force. This is your initiation too, not to prove your love, but to protect your frequency, not to bend yourself to meet him, but to rise into the woman who can only be met in truth. And in this space, something sacred happens. You begin to shift the field, not through effort, but through energy, not through striving, but through surrender. You become the mirror of what he must now choose, a life of half-truths and survival, or the full embodiment of love. And that choice isn't yours to make, but it is yours to witness. So what must you hold during his shift? Hold your boundaries. They are love too. Hold your body. It carries wisdom deeper than words. Hold your emotions without judgment or shame. Hold your knowing, even when the outer world contradicts it. And perhaps most of all, hold your joy, because you are not meant to freeze your life waiting for him to thaw. You are not meant to pause your radiance while he stumbles through his dark night. Your light is not conditional. It is the medicine, the message, the map. Let him feel what it means to lose the version of you that waited, and what it means to witness the version of you that rose anyway. So when he reaches out, it won't be to fill a void. It will be to meet the woman who no longer carries his wounds for him. You are not his healer. You are his mirror. And sometimes the most healing thing you can do is stop saving him. Instead, show him how to save himself by choosing a love that doesn't demand your sacrifice. So breathe. Every time you feel the pain of his silence, breathe. Every time your chest tightens, breathe. Every time you miss him, breathe and return to you. Because the more you do, the more the universe responds. And when he feels that field shift, when he senses that you are no longer waiting, but becoming, his soul won't be able to forget it. Even if he turns away, even if he stays silent a little longer, even if he claims he doesn't know what he wants, your frequency has already spoken, and it said, I remember who I am, and I will not abandon myself to remind you. That, beloved, is what you must hold now, not for him, but for you. Because a union isn't just a destination. It's a frequency you live from. And the more you live it, the more it calls everything aligned to that vibration back home. He may not say a word, but his soul is louder than ever. No message, no call, no apology. And yet, something inside you knows. He's shifting. How can you tell? How do you know deep in your belly that something invisible is aligning, even when the physical remains painfully still? Because energy doesn't lie, and the divine masculine is never still when his soul is in motion. But he hides it well, doesn't he? He goes quiet, he looks composed, he posts pictures, he smiles through storms. He says things like, "I'm fine, just busy, just tired." But you feel something beneath that surface, something raw, something real, something that can no longer be avoided. Here's the truth. He is preparing, in silence, in confusion, in secret. And his readiness doesn't begin with grand declarations. It begins with glitches in the script. So what are the signs? What does his quiet readiness look like? It looks like discomfort in places that once felt safe. It looks like restlessness around people who used to validate him. It looks like feeling out of place in the life he once built, and suddenly questioning every part of it. He may not tell anyone this. He may not even fully understand it himself. But internally, his world is cracking open. He's starting to feel emotion again, deeply, painfully, inconveniently. Out of nowhere, he might cry, feel triggered, fall silent in conversations because something touched a wound he didn't know was still open. He's feeling you through the parts of himself he never wanted to meet. He's beginning to pull away from false attachments, that old connection he clings to. It doesn't satisfy him anymore. That shallow flirtation, it drains him now. That career, that image, that routine, they no longer distract him like they used to. Have you ever walked through a room you once loved and suddenly felt like a stranger there? That's what he's going through. The places that once made him feel enough are now haunted by your frequency. He's being haunted by memories of moments with you, of things he never said, of the way your eyes stayed soft even when you were in pain, of the way you didn't ask for anything but gave everything. These memories aren't nostalgia, they're initiations. They stir guilt, grief, wonder, longing, and when he tries to suppress them, they show up in dreams. He's dreaming more, and they aren't ordinary dreams. They're vivid, they're strange, they're often emotional. He wakes up sweating, aching, confused. Your presence visits him there, not always as you are, but as a symbol, a frequency, a guide. You're woven into his subconscious now, and that's a space he can't control. He's feeling his body rebel. Why can't he sleep? Why does he wake up anxious for no reason? Why is his chest tight when he thinks of you or sees a certain number or hears that one song? Why does he feel like he's about to cry when he's supposed to feel just fine? His body is telling the truth his ego won't admit. He's seeing signs, and this time he can't brush them off. 11/11/222. Your name on a license plate. A song lyric that hits too close. A book that falls open to a page that says exactly what he needed to hear. He used to dismiss it all. Coincidence, nonsense, random. But now, he's starting to wonder if the universe is trying to tell him something. And for the first time, he's listening. He's spending more time alone, not because he's isolating in the old way, but because the noise is too loud now. He needs quiet to breathe. He needs space to feel. He doesn't know how to be with others anymore without a mask. And the mask is slipping. Have you felt this? That sudden, unexplainable moment when his presence rushes in, when you're doing something ordinary and you just know he's thinking of you. That's the pull. That's the moment his energy touches yours again, and you're reminded that your souls have never been apart. But be careful, beloved. These signs aren't invitations to chase. They're confirmations to trust. Because readiness in the divine masculine doesn't arrive in one clean moment. It unfolds in stages, in waves, in sacred interruptions. He is not on your timeline. He's on the soul's. And if you look closely, you'll see he's not ignoring you. He's being pulled into the frequency of you. And it scares him, because to meet you in truth, he knows he must leave behind the self that never fully lived. So if you've been seeing these signs, if you've been sensing his shift without evidence, you're not imagining it. You're receiving the transmission. And that means your energy is strong. Your field is clear. Your love, without attachment, is working. So hold steady. Let the signs be enough for now. Let them be your whispered confirmation that everything is moving, even in stillness. He may not speak yet, but his soul is circling closer. And one day, when the false layers have fully burned away, he won't just feel ready. He will be, and you'll know. Because you didn't wait in pain, you waited in power, and that, beloved, is how union finds its way home. If you've made it this far, it means your soul has been listening, not just to these words, but to the quiet wisdom beneath them. Because what you're feeling now is not just longing, not just ache, not even just love. It's remembrance, the remembrance that true union doesn't arrive because you waited long enough. It arrives when you've shifted deep enough to no longer confuse attachment with devotion, deep enough to stop chasing and start transmitting, deep enough to let go, not in despair, but in trust. Union doesn't come because you wished for it every night. It comes because you became the frequency that could hold it. And that frequency is not built on pain. It's not built on proving, waiting, or suffering quietly. It's built on truth. Because divine union is not a romantic rescue. It's a sacred resonance. And that resonance begins within. So ask yourself, now that you've seen all that's unfolding, are you still holding the energy of waiting? Or are you embodying the energy of arrival? Are you still needing His presence to feel whole? Or are you living as if the love already lives inside you? Are you measuring your journey by time, by silence, by signs, or by the depth of who you've become? Because here is the mystery most forget. He is not becoming ready so He can finally love you. He is becoming ready because you already loved Him into motion. Not through words, but through frequency. You reflected His truth, not His wounds. You stood still while He ran. You kept your heart open even when the world told you to close it. And that frequency did something. It shook Him. It stirred His soul. It made the life He built without you feel empty. But even more than that, it made Him question who He is. That is the real beginning of union, not a message, not a reunion, not even an apology. The real beginning is when both souls can finally hold the same truth. I do not need you to complete me. I am whole, and I choose you from that wholeness. So as He continues to unravel, to resist, to reconfigure, you have one task. Keep rising, keep embodying, keep choosing the path that does not shrink your light to fit the delay. Because every time you choose your alignment, you're choosing union, not with Him, but with yourself. And through that choice, something sacred happens. The field shifts, the portal opens, the timeline accelerates. He may not know it yet, but your soul does. This was never about when He would return. It was about when you would remember. You are not here to wait. You are here to hold the frequency of love that does not bend under time, distance, or fear. And when you do, He will feel it. He will feel you, not as a memory, not as a ghost, but as the magnetic force that calls him into the man he was always meant to be. Because now, it's no longer about the fantasy of reunion. It's about truth. And truth demands a new frequency. One where you no longer shrink. One where he no longer runs. One where the connection is no longer a cycle of pain, but a platform for divine becoming. Let that be your prayer. Let that be your vibration. Let that be the message your field sends every time you breathe. Because union does not arrive from longing. It arrives through alignment. And you, beloved, you are already there.